Day two of the round of 32 is almost completely in the books. We're going to go live coming off of a high of an insane finish. Lots to talk about for college basketball, busted brackets, and of course, we're going to talk to you about NBA draft implications. Let's go ahead and party. We are live here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. We're also going to be on your podcast player of choice in the morning. I'm Stephen Gillaspie, joined by my friend, Tyler Metcalf. Metcalf, just saw when I was reposting the video that we're doing now on Twitter, Nathan Grubel said, "How can you not love March Madness?" I think that completely exemplifies what we just watched, man. How you holding up?
Oh, just still trying to get my bearings on what just happened. I just back-to-back like time slots too of awesome finishes between the St. John's buzzer beater over Kansas, and now we have Iowa with a unlikely game winner over Florida with maybe the biggest upset of the tournament. I know seeding wise there was bigger discrepancies, but Florida opened this game as an 11.5 point favorite, like minus 625 as a favorite coming into the game. And just a ton of credit to Iowa. Holy cow, what a win.
Yeah, let's just dive into it, man. So Florida loses to the Iowa Hawkeyes 73-72. The game-winning shot. Let's just dive into Alvaro Folgueras, who a lot of us liked coming into the year, the transfer in. He and Bennett Stirt were supposed to revolutionize college basketball. And one player has held their end of the bargain through most of the season. But when he needed it the most, the right-hand man, Alvaro Folgueras, 14 points on 3 of 5 shooting, 2 of 4 from deep, hit all 6 of his free throws, had 5 rebounds, 1 assist to 3 turnovers, and a steal. Walk me through how you were feeling in the closing seconds of that game. Did that go the way that you expected?
I mean, sort of. If you would have asked me if I trusted Folgueras to make a free throw 2 months ago, I would have said no, because he was abysmal for the vast majority of this year. And when I saw him in person against Minnesota, it was one of the worst individual performances I've ever seen in person. And not just from a production standpoint, but like the body language was bad. He looked terrified to just go back to the bench after committing a turnover. And he looked checked out as like, oh, what happened? Because this is not the dude that we saw at Belmont last year. And this last month or two, something has finally clicked, and he has been playing really, really well, pretty much just a little bit better every week. And it's culminated in tonight's game where he was fantastic. You read off the numbers, but the impact, the work rate, him being where he needed to be, doing all the little things, and playing with that passion, and then knocking down the big shot at the end. It's like, all right, where was that all year? Because I think I was not a 9 seed if they have that Alvaro Folgueras all year. Bennett Sturt's numbers probably look a lot better too. Folgueras' numbers for sure look better, and we're probably talking about him more as a this year guy rather than a next year guy. But the fact that he stuck with it all, I think, is a real testament to him, to the coaching staff, to that team, and the fact that he was able to come through in the clutch after Sturts made the right play, which is what he always kind of seems to do, and set him up for that wide open corner three. It was a really, really cool moment. And then especially like when we see Folgueras celebrating with his mom afterwards, and the touching tribute to his dad, and the fact that this is his mom's third game ever seeing him play in college. It's like it's classic storybook stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that very last portion, talking about the mom being there, the stuff with the dad and all that stuff. Like, it turns out that maybe he just needed his mom to come to more games for him to be probably a this year guy. Kind of kidding when I say that, but yeah, just like the storybook ending stuff, and stories far from over. They at least get to play one more time. at a minimum. But advancing to the Sweet 16, they said that was Iowa's first Sweet 16 appearance since
1999.
99.
27 years.
How old were you?
7
Yeah, I was
or
9.
about
Okay,
6,
yeah.
about to turn 7. Yeah.
Somewhere between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
9
I
years.
hate you.
Yeah, I did it. Ha ha. I let it go for so long. I just got to make sure that it's dead. I don't want any kids to see me do that and be like, "Yep, it's still cool." But yeah, Alvaro, dude, wanted so badly for him to just be like this through most of the season. Might be just like the momentum he needs for next year to carry it in. But Bennett Stirt, you talked about him seemingly always doing the right thing. You and I were talking like right before we went live, and he's a sharp dude, obviously, like 5 assists to 0 turnovers, 1 steal, he's crashing the glass, he's active, he tries to be pesky, he makes timely digs, so on and so forth. 0 of 9 for 3, 5 of 16 from the floor. This is coming off of another rough game. Their last outing, I believe he was 3 of 10 from deep is what we talked about
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. It's good that he's winning, and it's good that he's still in the public's light. That way, whenever like a timely play does happen or he does something really cool, we still see him and we can remember what he was like at Drake and remember what he was like for the majority of this season. But it kind of sucks that we're seeing him kind of backslide a little bit now that he's going up against tougher and tougher competition. Boogie Flynn kind of had him in a
Yeah.
straitjacket a lot tonight. Xavian Lee hit tough shots in vicinity of him too. How are you feeling about Bennett overall? Like he's still winning, but like let's talk NBA draft wise. How are we holding up with him?
Probably about the same as I was a month ago.
Okay.
And it's tough because when you just look at his last 7 games, which is basically all of March, and going back to February 28th, but from 3, 0 of 9, 3 of 10, 2 of 5, 2 of 9, 2 of 7, 4 of 14, 2 of 7. He has been on a prolonged cold streak. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's the type of shooter he is. I think he is the type of shooter that we saw for the vast majority of the season, that we saw all of last year. I think he's a really good shooter. I think he's just going through a real cold slump. But what I still really love about that is that it never really seems to affect his game. Like he doesn't seem to get in his own head. It doesn't really affect his decision making. That floater that he tried to knock down late in the game, it wasn't a great shot, but at least he went early and was aggressive and left a bunch of time on the clock. So if he did miss badly like that, then all right, there's time to foul or get a steal and still get an offensive possession for a chance to stay in it. And then just the decision making and the passing is always really really solid with him. So he's just constantly one of these guys where I have to imagine that he looks so much better in an NBA context next to other NBA creators because he does have to do 95% of the offensive creation with this Iowa team. And that's not a slight to any of the players or anything. It's just how the team is set up and how their scheme is set up. And that's such a huge burden. And over those last 7 games, the fewest minutes he's played in a game is 39. So the dude never leaves the court. His
Yep.
legs have got to be shot. But you never know it by looking at him because he's so even keel and just keeps going. So he's not one of the best point guards in this draft. I do worry about his ability or inability to get downhill at an NBA level consistently, especially without a screen, to score in isolation when needed. But I don't have any concerns about him making the right play, being able to set up teammates, and when the ball swings back to him, make the right play or knock down a three.
Yeah, and we talked about this too, like how I made the joke that he's facing that double bracket coverage through most of the game. He's clearly very good based off of the way that he's being defended so heavily by whichever team, that they're playing against. So don't want to make it sound like I'm completely out on him. I just feel like some concerns that you could have with him have been kind of brought to light
Yeah.
in a bigger way on the tournament. So, which I think is an okay thing for us to talk about, especially going up against a team that is maybe one of the closest approximations to an NBA team that you will
Hmm.
see in college, right? With Florida. So, seeing Boogie Flan, like I said, have him in a straitjacket, a little bit concerning, but still has more games. it takes just one more game. We have the shortest attention spans and memories in scouting. So whenever he has his 30-point game, we'll forget all about this stuff and we'll be like, why isn't this guy, in the lottery and all that other stuff? So, do you have anything else on the Iowa side? Or are you ready to talk about the Florida guys?
Um, No, I can't get over how impressive of a team win this was for Iowa
Yes.
and what it means to this program and the first year of Ben McCullum's tenure there after moving on from Fran McCaffrey, who was there for what felt like ever. Um, Making that kind of move and bringing in a guy from a program like Drake, it's always really tough and it can always be really scary and
Yep.
daunting, and it wasn't not a smooth road for a lot of this season, but it is really cool to see him getting this team where they need to be together, and not losing guys because he very easily could have lost Fulgaris 45 different times this season, but he's gotten the best out of them. And the fact that we
Yep.
now have a Sweet 16 in the South region with three Big Ten teams, Iowa versus Nebraska, and then Illinois versus Houston,
It's gonna be such a fun
is
game.
really
Yeah.
cool. It's really, really
Yeah.
cool.
It is, man, and I mean, in his inaugural season with the Hawkeyes, it's just great to see like how true his coaching, his scheme, how great Bennett Sturts has been transferring up a lot of positive things with them. So obviously, because they're still winning and they just knocked out the defending NCAA champions, Florida Gators, who some of their players had some good games, some of them didn't. Well, do you want to talk about Thomas Haugh? I mean, this is the guy who's probably the top NBA draft prospect. Kind of hate to get a little bit negative here, but not his best night.
No.
Finished with 19 points, 3 of 11 from the floor, 2 of 8 from deep. Did go 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Love to see that aggression from him throughout the game. Crashes the glass, led his team in rebounding. So, another positive thing to say about his performance tonight. Led the Gators in rebounding, that's saying a lot. 2 assists, 2 steals, did have 3 turnovers, and again, struggled a little bit with the shooting efficiency. How are we feeling about Haugh? I mean, I don't think that this one game necessarily absolutely changes the entire eval,
Yeah.
but anything in here that you're taking away that you're like, huh, let me think about this a little bit more.
The shooting inefficiency is always really frustrating because it's
Sure.
the easiest low hanging fruit to go to, and rightfully so because he hasn't been shooting well down the stretch either, just like Bennett Sturts. Um, but when you see 11 for 12 from the free throw line, kind of tough not to love that. The
Yeah.
6 rebounds, like you mentioned, tough not to love that. Conversely, like Ruben Chinyelu, 0 points, 1 rebound. What are we doing?
I was going to
Um,
talk about that because he's kind of come on as of late as a
yeah,
potential like, hey, why not this guy as a big man in the draft?
Yeah, so I promise I'll get back on topic,
It's
with
okay.
Hauk specifically, but, like, what's a little more concerning for me than the shooting because, he didn't come into the season as, like, this projected lights out shooter,
No, I
um
just wanted to see improvement, right?
right, which I feel
Yeah,
like we have in totality.
absolutely.
The bigger concern is the ball security for me, and
Mm,
3 turnovers tonight. I love that he's gotten a little more dynamic and aggressive getting downhill, which is reflected in those free throw numbers. I mean, he's just a battering ram when he attacks downhill, but you gotta be more careful with the ball, especially in a game like this where the offense really doesn't have it anywhere. Your shot's not falling. I love that he's aggressive attacking downhill, but especially like a couple of those late, it's just tough. So I like him a lot. My
yeah,
impression is
hard
that
not to like him.
my impression is that NBA teams like him a lot more than the media or draft Twitter does. Um, I still get a lot of Tumani Kamara vibes from him, and where you
Mhm.
would take that, that's up for others to decide. For me, that's probably still mid teens. Am I pumped about using a lottery pick on him? Maybe not, but at the end of the day, you gotta just take really good players. And despite some of the struggles and scoring struggles that Hauk had in this game, and the last couple, I still think he's going to be just a really good player. I think I just need to kind of reevaluate what that ceiling may look like.
Yeah, and I think too, even though the efficiency wasn't great, 8 3-point attempts, I think that kind of goes along with what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes volume is just as good much of an indicator as absolute efficiency
Hmm.
at the college level, right? So the fact that he's taking 8 3-pointers, like led his team in 3-point attempts, 2 more than Xavian Lee. Actually, not a lot of 3-pointer attempts attempted at all for Florida today. Not surprising, but the fact that Hauck's efficiency isn't great, it also reminds me of the fact too that I think he's playing out of position, and I feel like sometimes when we give that some like concentrated thought, we can understand like how he might look as a 4 in
Yeah.
the NBA as opposed to a 3. And like I said, that's kind of a simple comment to make, but I have to constantly remind myself because the stuff that we're watching him do in college is probably way more than what's going to be asked of him. I keep thinking like Obi Toppin in the NBA. That's kind of like the comparison that I see with him and how it translates. A guy who could probably start if you need him to, going to be really good coming off the bench, energy guy, near the rim, transition threat, defensive menace,
But you're
that
not
whole
taking
thing.
that top 15.
You're right. You're right. I'm not, which is like am and I have to question myself too, like especially at this time this season, Metcalf. Am I holding on just because I don't want
Yeah.
recency bias to kick in, or am I letting recency bias kick in instead of holding on to the eval? Like it's truly like we make jokes about this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
but it is really hard in real time to like be measured in either direction.
Yeah. And it's really tough to like take off the rose colored glasses because I ended last year's cycle with a first round grade on him, like in the 20s, but I would have used one of those late first round picks on him last year. So coming into this year, I was like, oh man, we're gonna get an awesome Thomas Houck. And for a lot of the year we have, but
Yes, for the most part we
I
have, yeah.
but also a lot of those expectations and previously established bias and intrigue is probably also masking some really concerning flaws and holes in his game. Just because I do love the way that the guy plays,
Yeah.
and that's also really important to note. He's almost 23. So he's going to be a 23-year-old rookie. Um, I know we talk about that with the axle and holding it, that being a negative with him in some cases. There are positives to it as well. But it's like, all right, at the end of the day, how much realistic growth is there? You never want to cap a guy because look at what Jaime Jaquez continues to improve incrementally across the board, and it
Yep.
won't shock me at all if we see a similar type of career from Hauk, just to kind of throw out another name for a comparison.
Yeah, I think that that's all fair and good. So covered Hulk. Let's talk about Condon, who of everyone had the best night. 21 points, 8 of 13 from the floor, only 5 of 9 from the free throw line. That free throw shooting has been a little bit of a bugaboo for him over his career. 7 assists, only 2 turnovers, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, no blocks. I and in it, when Jam and I had Keith Smith on of the NBA front office show,
Hmm.
guy who just kind of like dips his toes into the water when it comes March Madness time. That's when he really does the scouting as an NBA guy. Big Alex Condon guy. So when I hear NBA people are high on a player, like I have to typically go back and look and see like why is this going to translate? Because especially if I don't have them so high, I understand a world where Alex Condon is an absolute like darling of an NBA player because of the size, feel, he moves really well. He's awesome in transition. He's just a smart big man. Like, what'd you think of the game tonight? How are you feeling about the projection with him?
He- He's fun. He's frustrating, but he's fun.
He is
And
very frustrating.
especially like at the start of the year, I thought he was horrible.
Yeah.
Which was weird because he finished last year playing really well. And it's like, all right, we're gonna have two first rounders in Condon and Hauk, at
What's the
least
trope
from
about
Florida.
progress and lines and all that other
It's
stuff? Yeah.
linear and nothing ever changes. It's just
Yep.
incrementally better the entire time.
Yep. Constant
Um,
up.
but what I've loved a lot about his season is how good the passing has been at times. There have been instances of it being really erratic, but a lot of the time it's been phenomenal. Like it was tonight, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, but he sees the floor really, really well. And whether he's creating out of the DHO or short roll or just top of the key, the elbows, he can find cutters, find shooters, has enough ball skills where he can implement some DHO keepers,
Oh yeah.
do a little bit of stuff out of the short roll. And I don't really expect him to ever shoot it. The shooting's been rough this year. I was hoping for more growth in that area of his game, and we just haven't gotten it at all. But the fact that the ball skills are solid and the passing is very real, it gives me at least an offensive skill to go to, because the defense and rebounding have been very good for the last 2 years. But now that he has like a pretty consistent, solidified offensive skill to fall back on, it makes the total lack of shooting a little more palatable.
Yeah, when you're that big and you're coordinated and as fluid as him, that gives you a pathway to success just in of itself. And on top of that, the fluidity that he has combined with the feel, I'm starting to come to the understanding why he could be successful in the NBA. I'm not gonna have a first round grade on him, but I'm kind of in that like mid-30s range with him is kind of where I'm living at now, and it could maybe get a little bit higher.
Yeah, I'm still lower on him. Just I have a lot of Florida film to catch up on.
Yeah, and he could come back too, by the way, right?
He
Like
could.
he's not guaranteed to go in the draft.
How old is he?
I'm not sure off the top.
21.9
like
currently.
21.
So
Yeah. Okay.
on the verge of being 22. Man, that'd be tough.
He'd be right where Haugh is now, right?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm really struggling with Condon is I don't know who he is in the NBA. And maybe I'm just doing the white guy thing, but like he kind of reminds me of Zach Collins.
Okay, I can see Zach Collins a lot. Yeah, that makes sense.
And like Collins is okay. And like if I'm getting Zach Collins with a second round pick, cool. But I don't know at what point you really swing on him, and that's just where I struggle.
I think second round is where as high as I could possibly get on him. I feel good in like that mid-30s range.
Yeah,
with him. We touched on him just a second ago. A guy who everybody has kind of wanted to push to potentially be maybe a late first, early second round draft pick, Ruben Chinyelu. We touched on him briefly yesterday too. I mentioned that I'm not buying the defense that I've seen with him translating up a little bit to you yesterday. We were off camera, I believe, when we talked about him a little bit, but wasn't necessarily a big fan of like the defensive mobility coming up. He finished today only 19 minutes, 4 fouls, one field goal attempt, had 1 rebound and 1 steal. That's it, dude. That's all Chinyelu did in a losing effort.
yeah,
and
tough.
It's crazy because Florida has, with Brown, they have like 5 front court players that they could run in almost interchangeably. Obviously, you don't want to lay the whole eval at the foot of this game, but I feel like we saw some of the reasons why he hasn't been a consensus guy coming in and why there's still some holdouts on him even as of now.
Yeah, and the rebounding all year has been just insanely
Yes.
good. 30.7 defensive rebounding rate and then 17.4 on the offensive end. That is about as dominant as you can possibly get. I'm a little more optimistic about the defense.
Sure.
But the fouls are the fouls. And like for every really awesome sequence he seems to have, there's almost immediately a really bad one to follow it up. I think what's even a little more concerning is the fact that he's as physical and athletic as he is and only has a free throw rate of 45.9 is bizarre. And then
I don't trust the coordination. He just feels
he's shooting
like
60.8% on layups too. So like I don't think there's really much touch there. It's
he's
puzzling.
a very good college player. He's a very, very good college player, and he has some incredible strengths, strength being one of those strengths. Fantastic rebounder. To me, though, it just comes down to like the feel and coordination with him, and that's where I think that he's not with some of these other guys that we're watching in college compared to some of the like him and Krivas, worlds apart. Him and Vasar, worlds apart. Him and Condon, in my opinion, worlds apart, you know? So if you're not even at Alex Condon level, like, why am I in a rush to draft you at all? You know, that's kind of where I've been at with him.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, especially since he's another guy who could go back,
Yeah.
who has another year of eligibility. He will be 23 in like a couple months, so he is on the older side. Florida's just hoarding all of these super old juniors, apparently. Um, but like the outcome, like the peak with him is, I kind of view as like what Dylan Cardwell is doing this year as a rookie. And Dylan Cardwell, I was a huge fan of him coming out of Auburn, but he was a very old rookie,
Yeah.
like coming into the league, because he took so much time at Auburn to refine a bunch of small things in his game to improve that defensive consistency, to really elevate the physical tools and the agility. Like guys his size don't typically move like Dylan Cardwell does, and if Ruben Chinyelu can return for another year, really hone that kind of stuff, improve the scoring touch, maybe implement a little more passing reads or something, but be super consistent and dominant on the defensive end. Now we're talking about a guy who could grow into like that priority second round pick type of category.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Xavian Lee, 17 points, 7-11 from the floor, 3 of 6 from deep, 3 rebounds, 3 assists to just 2 turnovers and a steal. Completely does, like, you read that line, you're like, hey, Steven, I don't know if you saw the last play of the game, but he kind of laid this loss at the feet of Xavian Lee, unfortunately. Which sucks because Lee was a guy that I liked transferring in. I was kind of
Yeah.
not in love with the fit with Florida just because of what last year's backcourt looked like. Did not look anything like a Xavian Lee style backcourt. Struggled a lot at the early portions of the season. Coming into the tournament, Xavian Lee has looked awesome. He looks stronger. He looks more confident. And he looked good for the majority of this game. But man, that last play, just driving down the court, I'll let you break it down, but just a rough moment for him.
Yeah, and I feel like Todd Golden probably also deserves a little blame at his feet for that one, where he just bolts up the right wing and then circles under the hoop and gets basically pinned there with his only option, a potential dump off to Thomas Haugh, where they're like all five defenders.
With
So
no
like
hope of getting that shot off
no, because
realistically.
the inbound happened with 4 seconds on the clock. So it's like you have to go full court in 4 seconds, and your plan is to dribble under the hoop where you have no other option but to dump it off to your teammate who's in a crowd and then has about zero point 0.4 seconds to get a shot off. It just
Catching it at his ankles too,
right.
by the
Like
way.
just
Yeah.
none of it was ever going to work, and Lee could have probably pivoted out of that sooner once he saw like, and he is pretty clear that Iowa was keeping him out of the middle of the floor, but
Yep.
and that's all super easy to do watching on TV with hindsight being like, oh, you loser, why didn't you make this
Yeah.
play?
Mm-hmm.
And I chalk it up a little more to Golden and what was kind of drawn up for him. I still don't think it's as bad as what Ohio State did, but it's up there.
No.
At least Florida got over half court.
UNC.
It's up there.
Some rough ones, man. Some rough
Yeah,
decision
so
making.
my bigger issue with Lee was, and I thought he was overall pretty good in this game, but he's been so erratic this
Yeah.
year where you have no idea what version of him you're getting on a game by game basis. Like Fulgaris was inconsistent this year, but it's because he started off horrible and then grew into a really solid player. Lee has either been awesome or miserable, and there really hasn't been any in between. And the good with him has never really seemed to line up with the good with Boogie. And those guys just never seem to find the chemistry and the give and take in that backcourt pairing. I loved the fit of each of them on Florida coming into the year. But once it was like, oh no, they're both coming, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that
How does
feels
that
like
work?
it's going to be really, really clunky because they don't have a backcourt stopper or backcourt shot maker with the physicality or shooting capabilities like they had last year on last year's title team.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it got to the point to where Klobuchar became like uber important
Yeah,
for them with their backcourt scoring as well.
who didn't do
So
anything tonight.
yeah, rough night for him too. It's weird. Like one play changes the outcome of this game, and then we're singing completely different praises about each one of the guys that we just talked about. That's just March Madness and the way that
Yeah.
it goes, man. Anything else in this game, or are you ready to talk about
No,
St. John's and Kansas?
I think I'm good. Congrats, Hawkeyes Nation, on 27 years is a long time.
Yeah, all these states getting multiple schools in this year. It's you love to see it, right? Iowa and Iowa State, good stuff. All right, let's talk about St. John's and Kansas, and very volatile game,
Hmm.
both in terms of on the court, in terms of narrative. Like there's a whole bunch. There's this like perfect red storm kind of swirling around this game, if you will. But St. John's wins 67-65. Metcalf, if I was to tell you that the guy who scored 2 points on 1 of 5 shooting, 0 of 4 from deep, he had 1 rebound, 4 assists, and 2 steals, would be the most important player of this game, how would you feel about that?
Um, yeah, and just
It's
what a play! God, what a
yeah.
play! And just the cojones to leave him out there on that final play too. We're obviously talking about Dylan Darling, who made one of I thought it was a really tough shot. I thought it was horrible defense. I'm sure we'll get into it, but
Oh yeah.
I want to praise it first because that is a really tough finish still, and for that to be 0 of 4 going into that shot and have all of your shots be 3-pointers. Kudos to Dylan Darling because wow, what a play!
And Coach Patino's like, you're going to be the guy that I'm giving it to on a night where Zuby Ejiofor is having his typical Zuby game, where Bryce Hopkins has 6 3-pointers made in this game. Dude is just lights out. He's not the guy. It said his career best in 3-point shots, right? Um, you have all these dudes who are doing good things on the floor, and yet, like you mentioned, the guy who missed his first 4 shots, all of them being 3-pointers, uh, a guy who kind of struggled to find his footing on this team when Coach Pitino said we don't need a point guard. I don't know if people remember
Yeah.
that, but
That's
Dylan Darling, the transfer from
yep.
Idaho, gets the ball, drives right down the paint. Elmarco Jackson, a guy who is a little bit taller and a little bit stronger than him, goes right into Elmarco, flips it up with his right hand, tough angle, just goes right in, dude. And next thing you know, St. John's is advancing and Kansas is set packing. Just a fantastic play. Just like you mentioned, Metcalf, there's so many moments in March Madness that were just like, at some point, like I don't give a crap about my bracket. Like these moments are just fantastic.
And realistically, St. John's had no right to win this game. Like this was about as ugly as it possibly gets.
I
36%
beg
from
to
the
differ.
from an
Uh,
offensive standpoint, they have just like if I told you St. John's shot 36% from the floor, 31% from three, and 55% from the line, you're telling me they deserve to win this game,
that I would
or that they
say if
would win
that's
this game?
yes, that's crazy. I'm not going to me saying this is not trying to take away from like that amount of crazy. Kansas was down and out. Like the
Yeah,
fact that St. John's fended them off after letting them come back, that's pretty crazy. I thought Kansas was going to steal this game with the way that things had been going.
yeah, and just to clarify, I don't think Kansas had any right to win this game either because they were freaking
We should have
abysmal
double
too.
loss.
And
No one advances.
16 turnovers. I saw someone trying to start a petition to get Vanderbilt to take the Sweet 16 spot for either of these teams. I'm like, I don't hate that. At least Vanderbilt
Get
came within.
UCF in there. Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, but the offensive is the offense, especially at the start of this game, was just brutal. But we talked about some of the before we went to air, we were talking about man, guys do not know how to inbound the ball anymore. And
No.
this game was whole just that on steroids because no one on Kansas could inbound the ball. But that's a testament to St. John's pressure and their defense from start to finish. And they were getting it from basically everyone who stepped foot on the floor for them tonight.
Yeah, and it's weird because we were just talking about how it felt like neither one of these teams wanted to win it until like the last few moments of the game. But Zuby had 18 points, 6 of 14, missed all 4 of his three-pointers, was 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Typical Zuby fashion, attacked the glass, had 9 rebounds, 4 on the offensive end, dealt out 4 assists, which tied a game high, 1 steal, 1 block. Just doing the Zuby thing, man, filling
Mhm.
up every possible aspect of a box score. Uh, how are you feeling about him, man? Like, because I mentioned yesterday on yesterday's show that there's a contingent of people now who are lobbying that Zuby should be a first rounder, big man. Did you see any of that potential outcome with him tonight?
No. And that's not to take away him having a really good game. I thought he was great, and a big reason why guys like Flory Badunga and Paul Mbia were in foul trouble, and
Yeah.
is because of Subi's physicality and his aggressiveness and just relentlessness around the rim, on the boards, and that's what he's been all year. That's what he's been his entire college career. So I'm not trying to detract from Zuby in any way, but he made a couple nice defensive plays, but we also got to see him exposed a handful of times on defense. So I think bigs like if he was a true 7-footer, I'd probably be a lot more intrigued. Um, if everything about his game was the exact same and he was actually 7 feet, but he's listed at 6'9". We'll see what official measurements are, but I never
Yeah.
get the sense of like, oh my God, this guy's huge. Now he plays a little bigger than he is just because of how strong he is, and his mobility on top of that is a really nice compliment. Um,
He's
but
very savvy too.
yeah,
Like just
really,
angles
really
of
smart.
approach, all that. Yeah.
Um, so it's just tricky because I feel like this archetype, you have to be incredible, incredible on defense, to really survive or to hit the heights of being like a big time, consistent, every night type of starter. Um, and if I'm taking a big in the first round, that's probably what I'm looking for. Is at some point, can you be my actual starting center? And I struggle to get there with Zuby. I think he could be an awesome third big off the bench. I think he could be a really good second big. Um, but I don't see what sets him apart from a lot of other guys of a similar mold. And I think you could find a lot of those types of guys in the second round or even as UDFAs.
Okay. Fair. Dylan Mitchell felt like had a
Am I wrong for that?
no, no. I don't think so. And I'm sorry to just kind of like sweep that out.
No, you're good.
I think you're I just moved along because I agree with a lot with what you're
Okay.
saying. I think that the size is a concern. I think the fact that it's just hard, man, because like size inevitably does matter at that position. Like he's
Right.
deadlocked at being a 5. I don't see him ever being able to play the 4 or even toggling between. Is he pretty athletic as a college big man? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see him as a transcendent mover at his position though. Um the shooting, like you could kind of squint and maybe see it. He was 0 4 tonight.
Yeah, it's like
He's
29% on the year with under 3 attempts per 100. So it's like no volume,
yeah,
efficiency's not there. Because like as you were talking through a lot of that, it's like, oh, is there a world where he has a Nas Reed-esque type of body transformation
that's
where
a
he lightens
fair,
up,
yeah.
and because like he's got a decent handle, but not Nas was such a better shooter in his 1 year at LSU where we haven't really gotten any of those indications from Zuby.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry like you said to get him in the first round. Second round swing, let me get after it. Let me if he for whatever reason like decided to opt out and go into the market and like kind of politic his way into being an undrafted free agent and pick the right spot, I'd be all for that as
Yeah.
well, you know? So I think that there's ways for him to potentially be successful in the NBA. I just don't
Hmm.
know, just like you, I don't know if I'm in a hurry to get that in the first round.
Agreed.
Yeah, so Dylan Mitchell and Bryce Hopkins. Mitchell is the guy who I think has in potential to get drafted this year. I'm not going to rule out Bryce Hopkins because anything could happen when it comes to commitment season,
Yeah.
strong combines, stuff like that. But Mitchell, I think, is the one guy who you could look at and see maybe a team takes a chance on him in the second round. Had 8 points on 4 of 8 shooting, missed his only 3 point attempt, missed both of his free throws. Um, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. I always feel like his impact is greater than what the box score would
Yeah.
otherwise indicate. I felt like he had a pretty strong showing. Not his best game by any means, but he did a lot of Dylan Mitchell things.
I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
And that one floater he had was absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
I wish he could shoot like at all, but he just can't, and I don't think ever will. At least he's such a good defender, such a good rebounder. The passing has really improved every single year. So like there are other things to go on, and he's a big dude with like freak
Yeah.
athleticism. So there are a lot of things that build up his foundation because typically when we're like, oh, he can't shoot at all, that's typically like a death sentence for most
Yep.
prospects. But when you're 6'8", what was he listed at here? 6'8", 210 with that type of explosiveness, and now the passing that we're seeing, the defensive versatility and consistency and discipline that we're seeing, along with the playmaking, there's a spot for that type of guy on an NBA roster. Now, does that peak at Jared Vanderbilt? Does that peak at
Derrick
like
Jones
Derrick
Jr.,
Jones Jr.?
Brandon Clark.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are these types of niche roles that you can find that guys like this inevitably find themselves fitting into. So I know I'm way too low with Mitchell in my current rankings, and I'm kind of excited to see where I end up after doing my final deep dive because just every time you watch him, you just appreciate a bunch of the little things about his game.
Would you rather have him or Malik Brown?
Ooh, probably Mitchell.
Okay. I think I would lean the other way, but like you
Really
said,
interesting.
yeah, I
How
would
about
have to dive in a little bit more. I think that I just trust the kind of decision making on both ends a little bit more,
sure?
but I don't know. I think that Mitchell probably has him beat athletically speaking and probably even dribbling. So I don't know. Felt like I would need to go back. I think it's close though. And
Yeah.
between those two, it's like the offense is like the real thing that you got to ask yourself the question about. That's why I wanted to ask you. But yeah, putting it back on me was smart play. I now got to go back and think about it a little bit more. Good call. Touche. Um, um, anything else on the St. John side that you want to talk about?
Just last thing with Bryce Hopkins.
Yeah.
Insane outlier shooting game.
Yeah.
19% of his made threes on the season came tonight. So that's tough for Kansas.
Yeah. You want to
It,
put a lot of stock into this game from Bryce Hopkins and your evaluations and overall thought process on who he is as a player is what I'm hearing.
he's an elite shooter, is what this game is telling me. And, and
Yes.
and anything else is a
A
lie.
fantastic rebounder too. Solid defender. Like, why not take this guy in the first round, Metcalf? Obviously joking. This is not
But
representative
also
of
cool
what
to
he.
see him come back from like the knee injury he had last year
Yes.
and or 2 years ago. I don't know. Time doesn't matter.
Yeah.
His knee injury that ruined that Providence season and come back and have him at least have a moment like this where he was just lights out.
Yeah. Certainly like tied the team high in scoring, willed his team to victory. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was the one who took the shot to
Yeah.
end the game. That's how great he played today. He might have been the hand that if I was, for whatever reason, someone wanted to hire me as a coach in the NCAA, he probably would have been the hand that I turned to. But Coach Pacino shows that I don't really know anything. Um, let's flop to the other team, man. Because I feel like there's a lot we
Oh
could
boy.
say. I don't want to. I don't know. This might turn into an hour-long segment here. Kansas was a mess through
Yeah.
most of the game. They came back in a way that I don't feel like they deserved based off of the rest of the way that how they performed the rest of the game, if I'm being perfectly honest. Look, Darren Peterson, 21 points on 5 of 15 shooting, 3 of 8 from deep, 8 of 10 from the free throw line, had 4 rebounds, no assist, 3 turnovers, no steals, but 4 blocks, which was a game high, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most polarizing guy at the top of the draft, and I think
Which
probably
is
is putting
bizarre.
it. It truly is. I'm writing a lot about this for a piece coming out Thursday over at NoCeilingsNBA.com, and I post about it a lot when I watch Kansas. And you know how I was talking about short attention spans with fans and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I tweeted today that like I don't know how Kansas fans could ever be upset about Darren Peterson and his performance, and a lot of them were like, Never been upset at Darren. Like, I'm upset at the rest of the team. I'm upset at the coach. I was like,
my
oh,
mentions say otherwise.
oh, that's very interesting. But look, man, like, I'm trying not to get emotional here, but I bleed red blood just like everybody else. People talk about him in a way that just bugs me so much, like the extracurricular stuff with like leadership. I saw so many people who have like significant followings, like my number one has to care and all this stuff. Like, I even had someone say that, like, I just want him to be more aggressive. So I tweeted out, like, Darren Peterson is leading his team in free throw attempts. He is leading his team in blocks. He is their leading scorer. Do you just want him to scream after every play for him to look like he quote
Yeah.
unquote cares? Like,
Yeah.
what? To quote the great Sam Vecini, what are we doing? You know, like, why are we talking like this about a guy who is clearly, I'm just going to put it like this, and if I upset Kansas fans, you don't deserve him.
No.
Like, Kansas does not deserve Darren Peterson. Like, the amount of crap that, like, the double talk that he got from his coach all season long, the here today, gone tomorrow, laissez-faire, like, attitude of the fan base, the way that big media has attacked his character, act like they have any sort of like concrete foundational evidence on his medicals or who he is as a human being. Like, I'm sad that we're not going to get to see him in college anymore. I am so happy he's out of that fucking hellhole in Kansas.
I love you.
I'm sorry.
It's perfect because nothing you said is wrong. And all of these fucking bullshit cliches, it's the most antiquated bullshit in the fucking scouting circles that you'll ever hear of. Oh, well, he doesn't have a good motor and he doesn't care. And it's like, oh, this is just Ben Simmons all over again. It's like, what in the world makes you think that this guy doesn't care? If he wanted to shut it down, he had about 45 opportunities to do so. If he didn't want to play, he could have been done in November when the injury initially popped up. If he didn't want to play, he could have subbed himself out and faked an injury tonight when his team was missing every goddamn shot that they put up. Coming in or going into like the final 3 minutes of this game, no one else on Kansas had made a three-pointer besides Darren in these last two games.
His teammates were dribbling off of their feet, Metcalf, and people were tweeting about him looking like he doesn't care.
Entry passes were hitting Melvin Council in the shins. Like, inbounds passes were hitting him in the shins. It's just bullshit. And it's like when big voices like Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins and Bill Simmons come out with this
Jay
shit
Williams
of, oh, he doesn't care. I want my leader to give a damn when he's out there. I want him to play hard. What about this guy battling back from injuries, being 70, 80, whatever percent you want to put on it, and still leading this team in scoring and defensive stuff almost every night tells you that he doesn't care. And every time I hear any of this crap resurface, I reach out to the NBA execs and NBA scouts and coaches that I've gotten to know. And it's always, hey, is there anything negative with Darren's work ethic or character or, anything like that? And it's always, nope. You will never, or at least I have never heard a bad thing about the kid, about the player, about his desire to be good, about his work rate, about his work ethic, anything like that. He had a shit year and he had a bullshit fan base crap on him all year. And now he's getting these morons in the media constantly shitting down his throat after watching zero of him and doing the bare fucking minimum to figure out who he is as a person or a player.
I uncorked a lot there, and I'm sorry that
I feel better.
I had to get that off my chest. It felt like you did too. So this was a cathartic experience. But in all seriousness, like bringing it back to the scouting aspect.
Yeah.
There's not another player that and if you want to have Cam Boozer at number 1 because he's like the most low maintenance, just bring his lunch pail, play the game, the quote unquote like the right way. Like he's the winner, and he is the only one out of the top 4 right now, Metcalf, who is advancing within
Yeah.
this tournament. So like that is until Darius Acuff starts entering the conversation, which is probably going to be happening very, very soon, by the way. If you want to have Cam Boozer because he's a winner at number 1, if you want to have AJ Debance because he's the prototype. I wrote about this over at NoSongsNBA.com. Like if you build an NBA player in the lab, he's probably going to come out looking like AJ Debance. The upward trajectory, the in-season improvements. Love him a lot. Have him in the exact same tier as Darren Peterson. Unfortunately, you got to slap number 1 next to one of the players' names. I have Darren Peterson because I have not been wowed more by any other player. Like Darren is, AJ is fantastic. But when Darren is rolling, there is not another player where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this dude is a freaking machine. So I still have him number 1, and people may say that I'm holding on to high school stuff. A lot of it, yeah, I am. I have seen the fact that he is at that X percent, like 63%. If we just want to do our best Bill Simmons
I think he might be up to
here.
like 89, 91-ish, probably in that range.
Yeah, he's at like 87 to 96, like 94%, somewhere in that neighborhood. But the fact that he is only at that percentage and there's not a runaway favorite, come on now. Like, I just feel like this is not to say that I'm like 100% confident that he will be. Like, I'm just making a board. I look at Darren. I have no reason to move off of him with what I've seen.
I'm in the same boat. I've had Darren at 1 coming into the year. I expect to have him 1 going into draft night. And if I had the first overall pick, he'd be the guy I take. Now, I understand arguments for AJ. I understand arguments for Cam. I can even at least tolerate some arguments for Caleb. But
I love Caleb too, yeah.
Outside of that, you kind of start to lose me a little bit. And like you said, the good with Darren, it's just in a different universe, because it pops up on both ends of the floor. And we saw that a lot tonight too against St. John's, where I thought his defense was really, really good. There were a couple times where he got a little too happy feet, but he was consistently sitting down in the stance, sliding his feet, 4 blocks. There's one drive where I think is Ian Jackson, he was dancing on Darren at the top of the arc for like 4 or 5 dribbles. Darren cut him off every time. Ian finally got him on the 6th one, but Darren stayed attached and then ended up blocking him from behind. And it's like, okay, this is tough not to fall in love with. And yeah, I am clinging to high school stuff because a lot of this season reminds me a lot of what we saw from Anthony Edwards at Georgia. And coming into the year is like, God, Anthony Edwards is the next dude. And then we had, he doesn't care. He's going through the motions. And, I think that's a little more applicable with Ant than it is with Darren. And I do wish that his assist numbers better reflected the type of playmaker that he was in high school, because he made some of the most advanced reads out of any of the incoming freshmen in that senior year at Prolific. And we got 5% of that this year at Kansas. Now, obviously, if you're just going off of assist numbers, to get an assist, the other guy has to make a shot.
Yep.
But I feel like the film also didn't really reflect some of the high-level stuff and the growth that we saw from him in high school. So I understand not being totally in on Darren, but for me to move off of him at 1, I'm going to have some major change of intel or some medical stuff that comes back that's really, really concerning, which I'm not anticipating.
And I'm in that exact same boat. I will say, to give flowers to some other players on Kansas after we just said what we said. I like Mbia long term.
Yeah.
I think that he could be something really, really fun. I have been a big Bryson Tiller guy dating back to seeing him at Overtime Elite. I think that he has to understand the game as it applies to his teammates a little bit better, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's done a great job of learning this brand new role for himself, playing big for like the first time in a real serious context. I just think that Kansas has the ways to go. J Gyro 59 or 5059 in the chat says Acuff is making a case. Look, man, like, Acuff is my number one. I'm a huge Arkansas Razorback fan. Acuff cannot be taken number one in this draft. I'm telling it how it is. I'm not just going to be like one of these like faceless stands that all I do is say the good things about my player. Acuff should not be taken number one. Like, he shouldn't be taken number two. When you start getting to like 3 and 4, I could start understanding a little bit of a case. He shouldn't be taken 1 or 2. This is someone who watched him all season long. Like, just shouldn't don't set him up to fail. Like, that's my biggest thing, is like, don't put him in a world that's not fair, is the biggest thing that I want for my guy to succeed. Anything else you want to talk about in this game, Metcalf? Are you ready to move on?
No, I think I got enough off my chest.
We feel good. We feel better. All right.
Can't wait to slap the explicit tag on this one.
Oh yeah, man. Parental discretion advised. Warning on here. We'll make the thumbnail just us, but black and white with the parental discretion advice. I think that might be the first time that I dropped an F-bomb on a
See, I'm being a bad influence on you.
No, the
no,
circus
I take
around
pride in it.
now, the Darren Peterson crap storm has definitely done a number on me. I'll just put it that way. Let's talk about Kentucky, Iowa State. This was one of the earlier games.
Yeah.
Wasn't surrounded by other games taking place at the same time. Iowa State wins this game without Josh Jefferson. Kentucky, surprisingly, still without two of the best players, and it gets brought up every time they lose, is that they don't have two guys. We know. They lose by 19 points, 82-63. Tamin Lipsey had 26 points, 8 of 15, 3 of 6 from deep, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, had 10 assists, 5 steals, and 3 rebounds. There's a lot of small guards getting a lot of love in the draft space. Why is Lipsey not one of those guards?
Because he doesn't have the sexiest game. It's really quiet, the stuff that he does. And when you're shooting 31% as a 6'1" guard, or 31% from three, as a 6'1" guard, it's tough. Like, it is a tough sell. But if he was undrafted, he'd be one of the first calls I'd make on draft night, because he's really solid. And when you see the kinds of impact that guys like Jose Alvarado and Trey Jones have had on their respective teams, I get a lot of similar vibes from Tamin Lipsey. Now, I'm not necessarily using a first round pick on that, because the variance in that type of player is so wide for every success story. We have 40 or 400, failures, or not failures, but guys who didn't break through and make it like that. So I think Lipsey could be one of those outliers. The defense is so good, and Iowa State's defense as a whole throughout this game was insane. They turned Kentucky over 20 times. That is a ludicrous number. And
committed only 7 turnovers themselves.
Yeah. And had 4 of their 5 starters had multiple steals. That is wild. And Lipsey led the way with 5, and then also turned a lot of those into easy buckets going the other way. So he's kind of the heart and soul of this Iowa State team, where they can put up a bunch of points, but their bread and butter comes on the defensive end, and he's the spearhead of that approach.
Yeah, and if 3 of 6 was more of the normal for him from deep, I feel like the conversation would be better. I mean, him and Fears, I think, would be like the two that you would be like, who would you pick who over?
Yeah.
And that's even tricky, right? I mean, I think that's why that he kind of is where he is in draft conversations. But man, he is so smart. He's a good quarterback. I would probably go with him just because you're not getting the antics, and he is like A+ leader, A+ in the press conferences and all that stuff. Like, great locker room guy. Great performance from him. Milan Momcilovic, 20 points, 6 of 12, 4 of 9 from deep, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Had 2 steals and an assist to go along with 5 rebounds. Metcalf, a lot of times we look at a Milan Momcilovic box score, and the points could be there, but a lot of the other things that I rattled off sometimes are just missing. Like, he doesn't light up the entire box score. But he had a great game today. hit some crazy, ridiculous shots. Like, even for him, like, just the audacity that he has behind his shot. There are some people that are like, I need versatility with players and I have to have specialists. Like, what's your special NBA thing? There's some people that are like, you have to do more than shooting. Like, I don't know where you are in terms of that draft philosophy entirely. Where does Milan Momcilovic kind of rank for you? How do you process like the one special thing that he does compared to the rest of his game?
Probably too low. Honestly, I've really struggled with him, and part of it is probably just some stubborn pushback from me based on how he's been hyped up the last 2 years, and it'd be like, yeah, man, like, man, when he gets hot, there's no one in the country who gets hotter than him, but the consistency's not there. And what else does he do? A lot of his shooting is like these tough mid-range turnarounds or stationary stuff from the perimeter, and I don't trust the defense or on-ball creation at all. And I think a lot of that stuff still holds this year, but he just doesn't miss anymore. And it doesn't matter where he's shooting from, what spot his feet are, like movement, turnaround, uh, anything. It's going in. So at the end of the day, when your elite skill is shooting like that on insane volume and one of the best outside shooting seasons we've seen in college basketball in a long time, like I have to value it more. So I'm struggling with him. He's going to be so much higher on my final board than where he is now. Because if your elite skill is like a handle, like that's cool. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, what does that really do for you? And if your elite skill is being the best shooter in the country on insane volume, and
A
you're
good size too.
6'8" ish, like that means something. And at a minimum, that's a rotation guy. And I just have to value it more than I currently am.
And that's kind of where I am too. I have him in the middle of my second round, which I don't think is unfair, but and again, depending on the way the withdrawal process works, that
Yeah.
might make him de facto an early second rounder. But like you said, like Sam Merrill, where was he
Yeah.
drafted? And he's heavily relied upon for the teams that he plays for. Duncan Robinson, we can do the whole white guy that
And
goes
he could still
undrafted.
go back next year.
That's true. He could. He very well could. And depending on how deep this team goes, he could just be persuaded by the NIL bag and the chance to run it back at some degree next year. To your point, that's a fantastic point to make. Um, but yeah, I obviously test and see how he stacks up and get good feedback and all that fun stuff. High C, don't project really an NBA outcome with him, but he had a nice game, 12 points on
Yeah.
5 of 8 shooting, very fun player. Has stepped in with Josh Jefferson not being available,
Hmm.
and has kind of kept his head above water in that role. Keon Torre is a player who I mentioned in my sleepers of the March Madness
Yeah.
tournament. He had another fun performance. I like him a lot coming into next season.
Yep.
Anything out
Same.
of him that you saw that you like?
The defense always rocks, and he's really good getting downhill. The passing has felt like it's improved throughout the
Yep.
year. Just you never know what you're going to get from him scoring wise, but you can kind of assume it's not going to be great. And if he can give you anything on that end next year, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, and he was 0 of 3 from deep tonight for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Uh, Kentucky, they made it further than I anticipated, but they went out in a lot of the same way that I expected them to just earlier on. Denzel Aberdeen, I messaged the group chat earlier while they were playing, and I was like, why doesn't Kentucky run Aberdeen shoots a three more often? Because it felt like he was just, every time I watched him shoot, it just felt like it was going in. Um, Transfer coming over from Florida, probably would have loved to have had him tonight with the way that the game went. 20 points on 6 of 14 from the floor, 4 of 9 from deep, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 1 board, 1 assist, no defensive metrics log there. Anything to take away from Aberdeen, just kind of in a projectable sense, or he's just fun college player?
I think just fun college player. Probably one of those guys that'll bounce around the G League for a while, maybe go overseas. Might get a cup of coffee on like a 10-day or two-way or something, just to see if any of the flashes of the tools really grow into something. And sometimes you can strike gold with those guys, but I've never gotten the sense of consistency where I like really trust him out there. When he gets hot like he did today, can be really fun, but that day in, day out type of stuff with him, I just I've never really gotten that from him going back to his time at Florida.
I agree with you, man. And then Otega Owe had 18 points on 15 shots, was only 1 of 5 from deep, 8 rebounds, no assists, 4 turnovers to 2 steals. Bama up on Tech at halftime. That's what my bracket needed after the Florida game. I'm glad to hear that. But Otega Owe did about as good as he could with how the rest of the team performed, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Anything earth-shattering that you're taking away from his performance?
No, this is what it typically looks like with Otega when in these games where they face really good defenses without a point guard.
Yep.
4 turnovers, couldn't buy an outside shot, and that's kind of the norm with him. I don't think his bully ball physicality is really going to translate to the next level like it has in college. I think he's been an awesome college player. I don't see him really making that leap unless unless the shot really takes a massive jump in the next year or two, and maybe it does with a more simplified role where he's not asked to do as much. Maybe he can pivot a little more into like that Lou Dort type of role and Lou Dort type of development, because Dort had to do a lot on ball going back to his time at ASU.
Yep.
And I don't think that's always game. I don't think that's what he should be doing at all. So maybe with a more simplified role, we get more tangible and realistic, feasible skills from him going forward.
All fair. Let's jump over to Miami Purdue, where Purdue won this game by 10 points. It felt like it was close for a lot of the game.
Hmm.
Purdue just executed in true a coach painter coach team fashion, where we had Fletcher Lawyer lead the way for this team with 24 points, with 6 of 7 from the floor, a perfect 4 from deep, a perfect 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Had 2 assists, 1 rebound, 1 steal to 2 turnovers and just 1 foul. Dude is just, if he's not on your team, you hate him. If he's on your team, you love him. I don't know if you saw the upside down U that he did after the game, where they caught him just like right after the win, where he's like, "Let's effing go. That's how you effing win," and just all these other fun things that he was saying. Very demonstrative on the court. He had himself a nice game. I don't know if this is a guy who is coaching at some point, or if he's like trying his hand overseas or whatever. I'm not expecting much from him in the NBA,
No.
but with a strap like that, you never can rule it out entirely. But a fun performance from him. And I would also kind of throw out there too, Trey Kaufman-Renn, 8 of 16, felt like it didn't do his impact justice. It felt like anytime he got in the paint and put his shoulder into somebody, he was walking away with points.
And the only guy on this Purdue team that I'm really intrigued by as like a this year draft guy is Braden Smith, and
Sure.
we've waxed poetic about him plenty. Lawyer does intrigue me because I mean we're now at multiple years over 40% from three. He's an awesome shooter. What
Yeah.
else does he give you? I don't really know. Sure. Is there that outlier AJ Green type of career? Sure, maybe.
Maybe.
AJ Green's what, 1 in 1,000. Like it's so hard to carve out that niche role. It
Right
won't
place,
shock
right
me.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like and it feels like he's made for overseas and could have a really good career. And I can't do the Kaufman run stuff. I can't do
I get it. I totally
it.
understand. And Braden struggled a lot in this game.
Yeah.
But you're going to get that sometimes with an undersized guy going up against another well-coached team, man. Like Miami, I had Purdue in this game, but I think with the way that Coach Lucas has coached this team, with just some guys who were kind of outcast from other blue-blooded programs, brought in a couple of freshmen and laid a lot on their shoulders like right away. You had Shelton Henderson, who I am just going to be like everybody else on the internet today, is like way too early breakout sophomore candidate season from him incoming. Doesn't shoot. I'm really proud of us at No Ceilings too, by the way. I went back and looked, like, how often have we mentioned Shelton Henderson? Rowan Kent back in like 2024, like scouted a high school event and was like, I like this guy. And then Rucker saw him at the Formula Zero court. I wrote about him at week 2 for Sleeper Prospects of the Week and week 14. So this is a guy who we at No Ceilings have been high on as a freshman, who has a good future long term. And we saw so much of that in a losing effort. He pretty much stole the show, even though that his team lost.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and the only guy on Miami that I'm really excited about from a draft standpoint. Long term, not a this year guy, but so physical and dynamic and versatile at a really young age. So it's what you love to see. And what does the shot look like next year? I hate that so many of these evals kind of boil down to that,
If he
but
shoots it, yeah.
if he shoots it, he's going to be a lottery guy. If he doesn't, maybe still a first rounder if some of those ancillary skills really take a leap. But the foundation and the tools that he currently has, they rock. He's really fun.
Yeah, and I've had a second round grade on him too, knowing that he's not gonna enter and stay. Like it would
Yeah.
just be crazy for him to be able to do that. But I just kind of a tip of the cap thing for him, just with how much we have really grown to love him. Malik Renew, really rough game from him. I think he might have zapped like any sort of second round
Yeah.
potential with me. Again, you never rule it out with withdrawals and stuff, but very rough game, 7 turnovers to the 16 points that he had. I'm a big Ernest Ude supporter, kind of running out of
Yeah.
reason to feel like I have to draft him in the second round.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anybody else in this game stand out to you before we go to the last game that we want to cover?
Not really. And Trey Donaldson's fun. I don't trust him at all. Like we get this
Yeah.
from we've gotten this from him for the last 3 years at Auburn, at Michigan, at Miami, where the good is so good. But man, there's a lot of noise there and a lot of mess. So fun player. Wouldn't draft him.
I think that that's totally fair. Last game that we want to touch on before we recap the games that ended while we were recording. Tennessee versus Virginia. Tennessee won this game in a game where I had Virginia going quite a long ways. Very weird game. Biggest name within both of these teams is Nate Ament. 29 points. He had 16 points on 4 of 11 shooting, 4 rebounds, no assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. Metcalf, he had the 1 block. The block heard round the world because Nate Ament did it, and he was very demonstrative after the fact. Up and down game, truly indicative of his performance throughout the entire season. Botched inbound play from him on both ends of an inbound, both as the passer and the receiver, was actually yanked in the closing moments of this game. A lot of people like him as a top 10 dude. I'm not one of those people. I don't feel like you are either. Just another unnormal Nate Ament game.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to hone in on the details for this one, so I won't wax poetic about it. Nate's been weird because like that month stretch, he looked like the top 7 guy that we hoped he would be. Just the inconsistencies have been worrying, and just this isn't a new thing with him getting pulled late in a game, which you don't love to see. I know he was hurt, or I believe in their first round game, so at least he was
Yeah.
out there playing the full 29 minutes, getting some shots up, at least making some plays on defense. So that's encouraging. He's just a really funky player that I'm not sure I'll ever get a full grasp on, because when it's good, it's so good, and when it's not clicking, it's a real struggle.
I'm with you, man. Jacoby Gillespie, my cousin, had 21 points on 6 of 14 shooting from the floor, 3 of 5 from deep, had 6 assists to 3 turnovers, 1 steal, 3 rebounds. I get the sneaky suspicion. Like, look, this dude's going to get an NBA look. It's just a matter of at, like, what degree. I don't know where you're
Yeah.
at with Jacoby. I'm probably not drafting him, but I wouldn't be
No.
surprised if it happens.
Again, depending on withdrawals, but X10 type of guy, potential 2-way.
Okay, fair. Metcalf, before we go on to slight kind of like preview piece, do you have the scores available for the games that have wrapped up since we or that might still be taking place since we
Yeah,
started recording?
Arizona ended up winning by 12 against Utah State, but Utah State had cut it to like 4 late.
Oh
And
wow,
then
okay.
Arizona was able to pull away a little bit. Alabama 49, Texas Tech 25 at half, and then UConn is up 67-54 with about 4 minutes left against UCLA. And it looks like Braylon Mullins is having a solid game. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 turnovers.
That is what you love
Alex
to
Caravan
see.
with 27.
Okay, good. Corey's going to love to hear that. All right, so right now the only games that we can kind of like look out to, and the fun thing about March Madness is that after tonight, the next round of games aren't going to be played until Thursday for the Sweet 16. The 3 games that we can preview right now are going to be Texas versus Purdue, Illinois versus Houston, and then the game that everyone was expecting to take place, Iowa versus Nebraska.
We also got Arkansas, 16. Arizona.
On Thursday?
Yep.
Why is that not showing up on my ESPN?
Maybe you needed to reload because the Arkansas game was still going on.
Okay, it just did it. That's
or the Arizona game was still going on. Excuse me.
Yeah, the Arizona game was still going on. I felt like I did. Whatever, it is what it is. And then Arkansas, Arizona. So the 4 games now that we can talk about. There we go. Which one you most excited about, man? There's a couple really good ones here.
And Arizona, Arkansas probably is the number one. Acuff versus Burries, Malik Thomas, Koa Pete, Krivas, Karchenkov. Like there's a lot of big name talent.
Billy Richmond versus Karchenkov. They're not guarding each other. It's gonna be Karchenkov is probably.
Could you imagine though? Just neither would they go combined 0-4 because neither of them would ever shoot.
Yeah. Man, that's just so much fun to think about. Like, is Billy's on Pete? I would imagine for Arkansas.
I bet they throw him on Burries.
You think so? And then Malik on Pete? Like, that's the thing is like, wherever you put Billy is like, I could see Malik on Burries. And then I could see Acuff on Bradley. And then you have to have.
Oh, I hate that. Bradley's going to walk past him all day.
Brazil on Pete, and then Ewan and Krivas. It's my nightmare as a
that's not a fun matchup for Arkansas.
It's not, and that's why I had Arizona advancing in the spot anyway, just because like, listen, our front court it's good in some areas, but like when we had to play big against Florida, we got bludgeoned.
Yeah.
I was kind of imagining the same, not to mention like Del Orso and Awaka coming off the bench too. Arkansas just does not have that sort of a. Hopefully Nick Pringle's in and we can just like have him clothesline Krivas. Like that's really our only hope here.
Yeah.
That's a fun game. And then we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how Houston and Illinois are going to be going up against each other. It's going to be very fun. I hope that we see some Flemings on Wagler action during this game.
Yeah. I would assume so. And Houston's going to throw bodies at him between Sharp and Uzan and Flemings. But
really, the only other guard that Illinois has to defend anybody is going to be Boswell. Like, I don't know if you do Boswell on Fleming.
Yeah, I definitely would because Wagler's not a good defender, so I'm not looking to get cooked there. But like 2 very, very different styles on both ends of the floor, so I think that one could be really, really fun.
Yeah, styles make fights, man. And like those 2 games are going to be fun. Iowa, Nebraska, like the contrast and like slow it, milk it out for Iowa versus the let it fly aspect of Nebraska is going to be so much fun. And then like Texas, Purdue is going to be interesting too, because it's like, who do you have that's going to slow down Swain? I could see the Tremont Mart versus like Fletcher and Smith. And then like, who's got TKR? Does Vokatitis foul out trying to keep up with TKR? Like, I don't know. There's some interesting aspects in that one as well.
Yeah, that one's definitely the least fun from a draft standpoint. I mean, unless Dalen Swain goes off.
Would love that.
20. That'd be very fun because he doesn't have like a direct matchup like he has in these last 2 games. So another really good opportunity for him, and he's going to be constantly driving into some very sturdy dudes down there in the paint and Clough and Red and Clough.
Yeah, sturdy is a great way to put Clough. Very, very good job. All right, Metcalf, so that's going to do it for tonight's episode, man. We will be back breaking down games. Thursday night is when the Sweet 16 kicks off, so we'll be back Thursday through Sunday again to break down the night that happened. We'll slight preview for the day before. Jam and I will be recording our episode on Tuesday, and that's going to be kind of like the 3 ups that we have for the tournament and the 1 down, because we mainly want to keep it positive in terms of who's been impressing us and stuff like that. So we'll be back. But in the meantime, noceilingsnba.com for any written work that you want to have. We're going to have a lot of really good stuff on there this week. I already touched on the fact that I'm going to have a Darren Peterson piece. There's going to be some other really great things too from the rest of the crew there. While you're here on our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. You guys have already gotten us over 22K. Let's keep that train going. Hit that like button. That does a lot for us too. All of our socials at noceilingsnba.com. If you want to follow Mr. Metcalf over there, he's at tmetcalf11. If you want to follow me, I'm at Stephen G Hoops. But for actually, Metcalf, do you want to say goodbye to the nice people before we sign off?
No, capped off.
Okay, all right. So for Metcalf, for the rest of the No Ceilings crew, for all you fine people, we will catch up with y'all next time. Much love, y'all.